A couple of weeks ago, I was out wandering around my neighborhood, not really having any particular destination in mind, kind of going off on a trip just to see where this would go. And I ended up at a garage sale. But it wasn't just a garage sale, it was much more than a garage sale. It was one of those situations where you see something, but the more you pay attention to this thing, the more this becomes something far different than you thought it was initially. And so I walk into the garage sale, and I thought it was a garage sale because they had all kinds of stuff on the driveway and a bunch of stuff in the garage, and then the lady sitting there with a little money box and a table, and people were buying stuff. But there was a door open in the back of the garage, and I saw some of the customers going through the door into the house. And so I followed them into the house. And it turned out this wasn't just a garage sale. This was an estate sale. Apparently the family was moving and they were selling everything in their house, inside and outside. And I saw a bunch of people inside the house just kind of wandering around looking at stuff. And there was a few family members strategically placed here and there in case anybody had any questions. So I just kind of wandered around, and I ended up going downstairs into the basement. And in this basement was this old woman sitting in a rocking chair, just kind of staring off into the distance. And there was a kid down there. I thought maybe a high school kid, maybe junior high school kid. She said, "That's Grandma. She's a psychic. She's a blind psychic. She used to be a regular psychic, and she didn't have a lot of success, but then she started to lose her eyesight. And that gave her much more psychic desire, psychic insight, psychic marketing capabilities to become a blind psychic and see things that other people can't see, to perceive things that other people can't perceive." And so I thought that getting a psychic reading was part of the estate sale. So I figured out what the heck. So I sat down, and she was in this rocking chair. And I noticed that while she was in this rocking chair, that I was surrounded by all these books. And I was about to ask what the story about the books were when she started talking. And she reminded me of this acting coach that I had a long, long time ago. She was a part-time actress. She also taught at the university, and she taught at a local junior college these acting classes. And she would tell us all these stories about what it was like to be in the movie business. She had always had these kind of small roles. She never had a leading role in a movie, but she was involved enough, and she had enough experience with directors and other actors, so she knew the inside of the story business compared to the outside of the story business that most people only are aware of. And the funny thing about stories is that our brains evolved to be storytelling mechanisms. Our brains evolved to see stories when there are no stories. Our brains evolved to express ourselves, to express yourself in the terms of stories. Because even if we veer away from a story structure, we will always veer back to the story structure. If you ever sit on a jury and you watch the defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney battle it out, what they're really doing is having a storytelling contest. If you look at two marketers battling out to see who can get you to buy this product the most, it's really a storytelling contest. And even if we're out of storytelling trance, because when we get into storytelling trance is such a comfortable place, even if something pushes us out of storytelling trance, we will magnetically fall back into storytelling trance because our brain evolved to see and perceive and express ourselves into the world through story structure. I read this book once by a psychic, a fake psychic. He was deliberately a fake psychic. He wrote this book about cold reading, about how to pretend to be psychic, how to use these tricks from psychology to pretend to be psychic, and then give people these fake psychic readings. And he would go on these talk shows. But in the book, he said the same thing happens over and over and over again. He's introduced by the talk show host as a fake psychic. He introduces himself to the audience in the talk show as a fake psychic. Then he gives these examples of fake psychic readings. But within about 10 minutes, everybody slips back into story trance and believes he's a real psychic. And they say things like, you have such deep and powerful psychic gifts. You understand things in a way that nobody else could possibly understand. You can differentiate between things that are real and things that are artificial in a way that people can't possibly understand. You have deep insights of understanding things in ways that people can't possibly comprehend. How can you do this? How can you express this to the world? How can you make the world understand what is truly going on inside your mind? And as I was sitting in the basement looking at all these books, she started to rock back and forth in her rocking chair and started to tell me about my story. She said, you are surrounded by stories. All these books are about things. Some of them are decidedly labeled as stories. Some of them are labeled as science. But they are all an expression of our storytelling instinct. Everyone is surrounded by stories. Inside and out, we are surrounded by stories. And your purpose in life is to tell your story. Your purpose in life is to soak up all the stories around you and see how much they resonate with the stories that already exist inside you. That is your purpose in life, is to continuously enhance your ability to tell your story, to enhance your ability to calibrate your story, to enhance your ability to articulate your story. Because the better you can articulate your story, the better you can get your ideas out into the brains of other people, the better you can transform the world in a way that only you know it needs to be transformed into. Every future conversation you have with somebody else is an opportunity to tell your story. Every future interaction you have with someone is an opportunity to tell your story. You might tell your story verbally. You might tell your story non-verbally. You might tell your story in a way that you've practiced and rehearsed. You might tell your story in a spontaneous way that moves people's minds in ways that you couldn't have possibly have predicted. The more you tell your story, the more you can refine your story, the more you'll discover more of your own story inside. Because every time you listen to a story from somebody else that gets into your brain, the more this will recalibrate your own internal story. The more this will enhance your own internal story. The more this will make it easier for you to outwardly and spontaneously and confidently and flamboyantly express your internal story to the world, because that is essentially your purpose. Everybody has a story, and your story is the most magnificent of all. So how will you, dear viewer, tell your story to the world? What will the impact be when you tell your story to the world? What is it about you that makes your story far more magnificent than anything anybody out there can possibly imagine? Think about this, and if you'd like to learn more, check out some of the links below. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.